coming, the Yanks are coming, the drums rum-tumming everywhere.
Welcome back to my first show of this new year. When you watch this show, those of you who have never had the honor of serving in the military, this show is to allow you to understand what servicemen and women go through, the difficulties, the problems, the times of happiness, and what it means to us to have defended you. And you vets who walk the walk, you need to understand that you deserve the respect that you have been getting. Today I'd like to talk about a topic that is great significance to we who served and the families who supported us. When we joined, we took an oath that we would defend our country, the Constitution, and you. At that time, we soon after that realized that we might have to make the ultimate sacrifice to keep that oath. Many of us had to see our friends, our brothers and sisters fulfill that part of the oath. The tribute that is given to the serviceman or woman who has been killed in combat is significant. When this happens, their team, brothers and sisters, do the utmost to get their soldier back to their base. It's horrendous for them. They have lost a part of their military family. Once they're back, they are placed in a casket draped with an American flag. At the airport, they are respectfully placed on a C-130. As they lower the hero down, they stand at attention and they raise their right hands to the flag and do a slow salute to honor them. They raised, the flight is called the Angel Flight. The Angel Flight has top priority in the U.S. airspace. They always number one when they take off and when they land. During the flight, the plane salutes the fallen heroes with a burst of flares. The salute looks like an angel's wings. They fly to Dover Air Force Base in Dover, Delaware. At Dover, an honor guard removes the hero from the plane, placing the casket in a transportation, and again performs the slow salute. At Dover Air Force Base, the hero is made ready for the presentation to his family and his burial. Utmost care and tenderness is taken to ensure that the hero is presented properly with his dress uniform of his branch, with all the ribbons and decorations on that uniform. An escort is presented to take him to his final resting place. These escorts volunteer for this duty. They will be there to ensure that the hero reaches the place guarded by their members of their branch. When the hero arrives at his final rest, an honor guard of fellow members of their branch stand at a 24-hour watch. At his funeral, the hero will receive 3 volleys of rifle fire to salute him. Then taps is played. The American flag, which has been on his coffin, is removed and folded in a triangular form. The flag is then presented to the family members. On this flag is 3 cartridges. They stand for duty, honor, and country. And then the last show of slow salute is presented. A military funeral is the greatest honor that we can be given, and any member of the military, to show respect for what we did for our country. My guest today is Mike Vivoda, the president of Northwestern Medicine Palos Hospital. Mike has several upper management positions, including Loyola University, the University of Chicago. He has received a bachelor's degree in business administration at the University of Chicago and a master's degree at Kellogg School of Management at Northwestern University. He was enrolled in ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps, after he served as an associate, after he served in, After graduation, he served in the United States Air Force for 3 years. He served as Associate Hospital Administrator at Seymour Johnson Air Force Base, Goldsboro, North Carolina. His duties then involved recruiting physicians and healthcare professionals for the Air Force in Chicago. He is also the executive sponsor of Veterans Chapter of Northwestern Medicine's Network. He is married and has 2 children and 6 grandchildren. Mike, thanks for coming on board.
Thanks for having me.
You served in Naval ROTC, Reserve Officer Training Corps. What was that training like?
So I was the third of 6 children, and my folks said to me, "Do you want to go to college?" And I said yes, and they said, "If you'd like to go, find a scholarship. Here's an application for a Navy ROTC application." I filled it out. My father was in the Army, served in the Korean War, so there was a bit of a military connection. But my older siblings, nothing to do with the military. I applied, was accepted, and served 2 years in the Navy ROTC program, and it was phenomenal training. It really was. For an 18-year-old coming out of high school with, this is hard for you to believe, long hair, had to shave that off, and the discipline and rigor and the naval science classes that I took at the University of Illinois really set a stage, and I really enjoyed it. That said, I was going to be an officer because I was going to college, and if you're not an aviator or an engineer in the Navy, I didn't see me creating much value. So I actually left after 2 years, and the Navy ROTC, just like all other ROTC scholarships, if you quit after 2 years, there's no obligation to pay back. Fast forward to me being a senior in college, I had had a lifelong dream of being a hospital administrator. I was in 8th grade, sitting on the corner in Wheaton, Illinois with a buddy, and a red Corvette convertible drove by, and I said to my buddy, I said, "I really like that car." He said, "Well, that's interesting. That's my dad." I said, "Well, what does your dad do?" He said, "He was a hospital administrator." I said, "Okay, I'm going to be a hospital administrator." And the more I learned about it, I was in business training at school. It's a business, but it's a laudable business. People need health care. I was excited about that. And as I was graduating, I was looking for hospital administrator positions. And in the civilian world, without some experience or a master's degree, it was very slim pickings. And fortuitously, the Air Force came on campus and was interviewing for hospital administrators. And I was engaged, got married 5 days after graduation, and my then wife and I decided to make an application and apply to be a Medical Service Corps officer in the Air Force, and we were assigned to Seymour Johnson, a small 30-bed hospital in North Carolina.
Did you get more training when you got into this officer corps? And did you find the training that you got with the ROTC helped you to be an officer and to be able to lead men and women?
The training that I received during the Navy ROTC days, yes. I think what it taught me is command structure, rigor, rules, chain of command. That always bodes well in a leadership role, without question. It is very interesting. I'm almost embarrassed to tell you this, but the training for a Medical Service Corps officer, there was no boot camp. There was no officer candidate school. It's what they called a direct commission. They treated us like physicians, kind of kissed us on the forehead. I went through 90 days of training in Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas, and it was really about the healthcare delivery system in the military. So a bit of physical, but it wasn't a boot camp or officer candidate school.
Understood. You know, people, when they think of the military, they think of a soldier carrying a weapon, or of somebody in an airplane, helicopter. But the military is more than that. We have a fine branches of medical care in the military, all the way from the medics to the surgeons and to the hospitals. How'd you like being a administrator, associate administrator?
It was sobering. So I'm 22 years old. I've got a bachelor's degree. I'm a second lieutenant in the Air Force. I have no experience. And I walk in, and there are 35 people that I'm accountable for. Each and every one of them more experienced and older than I am. And I learned very quickly, you have got to engage in that frontline staff because they're doing all the work. By rank, I was their boss, but they were teaching me. And I really, I think that's a leadership principle all of us need to apply. The frontline staff doing all the work are the ones that we need to support the most.
Yeah, it's just like any other business, I mean, but in the military, your backbone is your NCOs and the enlisted service people.
Without question.
Did you have any interaction with the patients there?
I did. As I said, I was just recently married, and one of the patients, it was all military members and their families. That's who we were serving in this small hospital. And my wife was a patient. We got pregnant right away, and she delivered a baby at that hospital. And we go back and visit with my son all the time to North Carolina. So yes, it was an awesome responsibility to take care of the family and the service members who I worked with side by side.
Now, I'm sure some of the patients you had in there were severely hurt or needed care. How did you go about with the hospital to build their morale and to keep them going?
Yeah, it's a great point. I was in the service in the Air Force from 1982 to 1986. It was peacetime. There were no conflicts where we were taking actually very critically ill patients. So it was basically like a community hospital. Moms, babies, service members who are, with infections. So it was more of a normal community hospital and less trauma. Nonetheless, it teaches you everything. When you see one patient, you've seen one patient. Even if they're presenting with the exact same diagnosis, they come with other issues, comorbidity conditions. Are they overweight? Are they disabled in some fashion? And it really, it instilled in me, we're in the people business, and patients are at the center of the focus of healthcare, whether it's in the military or in the civilian world. No different.
Right. The men and women that you had serving under you, like you said, you got to know them. How did you basically do that?
Yeah. Being present. I could have easily sat in an office and just dictated orders and looked at results, but I actually worked with them. So the registration, it's just like a civilian hospital. They do all the same things. They register patients, they take their vital signs, they have housekeeping services, and I was accountable for all of those support functions, and I would put scrubs on and help them clean bathrooms and register a patient so I knew exactly what they were doing. Again, it instilled in me, get to know the folks and appreciate what they do. It's not just a number, it's not just a task. These are people who are, as you said, it was a job, but we all took the oath. And we trained very diligently that if there was a conflict elsewhere, we were going to make a mobile hospital in a combat zone. We all knew that was a risk, and we trained for that. So that created a bond as well, that we're all in this together. Nobody was shying away from that.
Managing by walking around.
Exactly.
Your last year of service, you became a U.S. Air Force recruiter for physicians and medical professionals. What were you looking for when you interviewed?
Yeah, it's kind of a unique recruitment opportunity because you have to find somebody that's got a commitment. and the loyalty to nation. This is not about money. You are not recruiting physicians into the Air Force with the glamour of a lot of money. They have got to be committed to the quality of care, a service to their countrymen and country. And we had to meet about 300 physicians to get one to say yes. So it was not an easy job, but it's very rewarding and some phenomenal stories. One example, a surgeon in a far western suburbs hospital. This happened well after I was out of the Air Force. 9/11 happened. He's a neurosurgeon. He said, I've got to do something. He joined the Marines as a neurosurgeon post 9/11 and served dutifully in a combat zone. That's the kind of individual we were looking for, that there was something above what he was doing. And he left his wife and kids to serve. And what a role model. I talk about him a lot, Dr. Doug Johnson.
Those three words, duty, honor, country, mean a lot.
100%.
Why did you leave the military?
Well, at that time, the reason I got into recruiting is the individual that recruited me was retiring, and he called saying, hey, do you want to come back to the Chicago area? We'll get you back to Chicago. You can be a recruiter. And again, I was really committed to being a hospital administrator. I was at home with my wife. We now have 2 children. I'm one of 6. She was one of 6. All the family was there. It was easy to stay. And the real obstacle of finding a civilian healthcare job was no longer the issue. I had experience. I had my bachelor's degree, and the military experience boded well. So I made the change. There was one other kind of funny story of why I left. The chief administrator at the Seymour Johnson Air Force Base Hospital was in for 18 years, and he had 4 children. And he was a coach and a mentor to me in a big way. But the military went to him and said, you know what, we need you in Turkey for the next 2 years at a small hospital in a potential combat zone, and you have to leave your family behind. And they'll be able to visit once a year. And that really took a toll on me, like, you know what, it is a commitment, and you have to be able to serve no matter what. So it was a way to keep my family intact and less risky. So,
yeah, we forget sometimes, and a lot of people don't understand that we serve, but so do our families.
100%, yeah.
You have held advanced many healthcare hospitals and systems. What do you enjoy about those jobs? You've had those many jobs.
Yeah, it goes back to my Seymour Johnson days where I really, at Northwestern Medicine, our mission statement simply says patients first. And I have been arguing for almost a decade now that we should change that to people first. Because my message is, if we can create an environment where those frontline staff love coming to work, they love their teammates, everybody has each other's back, all the things that I learned in the military, our patients will be well taken care of. I mean that. So what I love is healthcare is a people business. As much as technology is growing, AI is growing, we can't do what we do without people. So I lead people first every day.
Sounds great. You're now Senior President of Operations for Northwestern Healthcare, as well as President of Payless Hospital. What does your work entail?
I'm sure you'll agree, Jim. The cost of healthcare in this nation is too expensive. It's inefficient. There's lots of waste. I'm embarrassed to tell you I've been at this about 40 years, and the problems that existed 40 years ago exist again today. We want the best. We want it faster, cheaper, and that's really what we're focused on. We're at our core here at Payless Hospital, we are a tax-exempt community asset. So we are not for profit. Our goal is to deliver care as efficiently as possible, But if there's any profit, it's reinvested in the hospital for new technology, for pay raises for staff. 50% of what we spend money on is people. So again, it comes back to treat your people right, and healthcare is going to be delivered more efficiently.
Thank you. You're also executive sponsor of the Veterans Chapter of Northwestern Medicine. What does that group get involved in, and what do they do?
Yeah, it's a wonderful organization. So as I said, we're a community hospital. We have a diverse community. We need a diverse workforce to ensure that all the needs of our community members are aligned, and we're trying to match our workforce. So we call it the NM, Northwestern Medicine Champions Network, and there's different divisions. The Veterans Chapter is the newest. There is a disabilities, there is a LGBTQ, there's an African descendants, an Asian American Pacific Islander population. And here's the goal. Identify others who have that same identity, and veterans is the one that I'm kind of the executive sponsor of. And let's create an environment where more and more veterans who are transitioning out of the military and would like to work in a healthcare organization feel welcome, feel listened to. So that's the entire purpose of this network, is to get, and they don't all have to be veterans. They can be family members of veterans. As you said, they go through this journey together. And we now have 140 members. We believe there's probably 1,000 veterans that are working at Northwestern. We'd love to embrace each and every one of them and give back. I know Melissa and the care packages for the veterans, I love that that's a part of it. We put wreaths across America for the veterans who have given that ultimate sacrifice of dying for their country to keep our freedom. Those are the kinds of things that we embrace, and it really creates a level of employee satisfaction and engagement that is pretty palpable.
Well, I have to say, over the last several years, members of Northwestern and Payless Hospital in some of the northern Northwestern have come to our care packaging, and I like to see them there. Some of them, I've even had some problems at hospital,
Okay.
and met them there after I'd been in there. And I have to say, they're hardworking. They're really good, and we really appreciate their help and the support of Northwestern.
You're more than welcome. Happy to do it.
My last question I ask all the vets is, how do you feel about being a vet?
It is an absolute honor of a lifetime. And again, I applaud your efforts to recognize, honor, and celebrate veterans, even those who are not combat veterans. I mean, I got a special place in all of our hearts for the combat veterans, especially those who have given their life for our freedom. It's embedded in me. I am proud of it. I am not afraid of saying I'm a veteran. I love talking about veteran. As we were talking earlier, I actually believe and fully support that it should be mandatory. I think the learnings and the message about this great country by serving in the military is something all of us, especially this new young generation, should have to witness.
As I've told you before, it doesn't, not all of our people who serve go into combat, but those people need to be behind the people that do go into combat and to support them. And as Mike has said, they've all taken the same oath, and they've all worked to defend you. They're as much a hero as any combat veteran. I really appreciate you coming on to my show today. Please accept this pin and this
Thank
coin.
you very much.
And I enjoyed talking to you.
Great talking to you. Thank you.
Again, I would like to read a note I received over the years, and we have been sending care packages. This one's from April 22nd, 2018. Jim Kruse, Kruse's Krew. On behalf of Victory Chapel, I'd like to extend my sincere thanks for your donation of care packages here to the 379th Air Expeditionary Wing. they have distributed to Jack's Place, our Air Ministry Center here at the Air Base. Jack's Place is open to all military personnel on our base to receive care packages and care package items. Thank you for thinking of us and taking the time to show your support. Your love and support continues as is to have a profound impact on those in uniform. It is groups such as yours who allow our troops to serve the mission with uplifted spirit and morale. Again, thanks for your selfless support. Sincerely, Dave Buttrick, Colonel, U.S. Air Force, Wing Chaplain. Again, I'd like to thank you for being on my show here on PHTV4. We'll be back again next month with another veteran to talk about what they went through, the things that they did, and the challenge of military service. So I'd like to see you again next month. Honor and respect.